SGMP wants to thank their newest sponsor and underwriter, Blinkist. And today you say, what is Blinkist? Well, let me tell you a little bit about them. In today's age, it's hard to find time to sit down and learn more. You know it is. It's not easy when the likes of social media can be so addictive and time-consuming, and you think you don't have time to read a book anymore or develop yourself. There is an app I can highly recommend. It's called Blinkist. Stick around to the end of the show today, and I'm going to tell you all about Blinkist. But you got to stick around to the end of the show because this app will change your life. Blinkist. It's spelled real easy, Blinkist. Stick around to the end of the show and learn more from Southern Gospel News Podcast.
Welcome to SGNP. Sit back for the next few minutes and hear stories heard nowhere else on radio, in a magazine, or on the internet. We're the audible voice of gospel music. Our sole purpose at SGNP is to inspire, edify, encourage, and entertain. Now, here's our host, Darien Southerland, and his partner, Southern Gospel Music Association President and lead singer for Dolly Parton's own quartet, the Kingdom Heirs, Arthur Rice. What's wrong with living right anyway?
They ask me how I've made it when the times are tough. They ask me how I smile when the going gets so rough. They ask me how I seem to live just above the storm, and how I seem to celebrate when the rain begins to pour. They wonder how I seem to move through every single trial and never bow to circumstance and dance through every mile. They ask me how through so much pain and questions with no end I can simply say that all is well and I am going to win. I just tell them Jesus. I tell them I just call on Jesus. And through everything I feel His peace, and with His hand in mine I can conquer every mountain in my life when I just call on Jesus. The name of
And welcome once again to SGNP. Darien Southerland and my co-host, Arthur Rice. How's it going up there in Sevierville, Tennessee?
Hey, going good. Raining a little bit right now, but
It's raining down here. It's raining down here in Marietta, Georgia. Everything's going good. Braves are playing good, and we're having a good time. But, you know, needless to say, doing the show a little bit different today, Arthur. I'm not in the studio like I normally am calling out. I'm at home. Getting ready to go through some fun stuff that we'll tell the folks about later. If I sound like I'm coming from a little different spot, I am coming from a little different spot. I'm sitting in my den this afternoon, Arthur. So anyway, today we got Richard Hyssong coming on with us, Arthur, and the Hyssongs have made an impact in gospel music coming from a land that a lot of folks don't know a whole lot about.
Yeah, they really have. And have done well. Radio has just accepted them really well. They do a great job, and just a super family. Richard is on my board of directors for the SGMA, and just been a big help to us, and hard worker, and we're glad to have him.
We'll talk to Richard in just a second, and he'll give us all the fun stuff about a Southern gospel group from the great state of Maine. You wonder what good could come out of Maine other than lobster? Well, the Hyssongs could. And hey, if you want to follow SGNP, you can always check us out on Facebook at Southern Gospel News Podcast, or our Twitter page, Southern Gospel News Podcast, SGNP Podcast, I should say. or you can catch us on Instagram, or you can always go to our website and check out any of our 70 shows that we've had through the years. And through the year, rather. We've only been on 1 year, Arthur. Acting like we've been on 30 years. Seems like it, though, man.
Hard to believe
we've
done that many shows.
Going to talk in a little bit later this afternoon to Jeff Turner. He just got back from the Memphis Quartet show. And Arthur, I know you guys wasn't out there, but the reviews and the pictures and everything I'm seeing from the Memphis Quartet show, congratulations to those guys that put that thing on. I mean,
first class event. I got to see some of the videos and stuff that people posted and some of the groups, and it's great. They've been trying to get us to come out there for years, but it's just my day says it's too far and snaky. But no, we're always here at the park in the summertime. It's so hard to get away for us,
Right, and I know your schedule prevents you from getting out there from Dollywood in the summer, but you've got to be a little jealous in a roundabout way, seeing that brand of quartet music go on without you guys and seeing such great crowds in a major league town like Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, it is great to see that. It really is. It's and the turnout is great too. They have a great.
Yeah, that's what's awesome. I mean, the building and all the photos, and you can shop photos. You know that, and I know that. But you can't shop people's social media photos. And this day and time, and people are just putting photos out and videos out, and a lot of good things. And I want to say this: McCrae Dove, them, I think, really stole the show, the original Dove brothers out there. What do you think about McCrae and them doing a great job?
Yeah, it was good to see them out. I think, folks missed them, and videos I saw, they just did a killer job as always.
Perfect Heart was put back together. Jeff Stice's old group and all those guys, Mark Lanier and all those fun guys, did a great job. And, of course, so many other great gospel music quartets. And we'll talk to Jeff in just a little bit about that. Hey, got to take a break, pay some bills, and we'll be right back with Richard Hyssong of the Hyssongs on SGNP.
Hi, this is Miranda, and you're listening to SGNP.
Darien Southerland here once again with you, and got to take a little short break and talk about one of our companies that make SGNP possible, MyPillow. And Arthur, rumor has it they were supposed to mail you some of their new premium sheets, and they're great sheets. And you got them, but what else did you get? I mean, you called me and you said, "Man, they sent me bed sheets like you promised," but you said your wife was jumping up. They're jizza cotton sheets or something like that. But what else did you get?
They sent some pillows, and so it worked out great because, of course, my wife and I have had pillows, and so the boys are so excited because they've got pillows now, and so they're excited. But man, I love these sheets. They're awesome. The cool thing about them is most of the mattresses now are so thick that normal sheets, they won't stay on. You know, every morning you got up and you got to put the fitted sheet back on where it's come off during the night. Man, these things are great. They're really deep, and we've had them on for a week or so now, and they ain't come off one time. So.
There you go. 60-day money-back guarantee. Deep pockets to fit every corner of any mattress. Ultra soft, breathable, extremely durable, satin woven from Egypt, I believe. I think they get the cotton in there and that's MyPillow. Give them a call today, 1-800-544-8939, 1-800-544-8939. Make sure you use the promo code SGNP. For MyPillow, Mike Lindell and the guys support gospel music. Why not support a company that supports gospel music? MyPillow, 1-800-544-8939. Use the offer code SGNP. Get you some like Arthur. You like them, don't you, Arthur?
I love them.
Hey, I'm Karen Peck Gooch with Karen Peckany River, and you're listening to the best in gospel music right here on SGNP.
And welcome back to SGNP. Darien Southerland and my co-host Arthur Rice up in Sevierville. And through modern technology, we're reaching out. I'm in Atlanta. Arthur's in Sevierville. And on the line with us on the Kia Automotive line from, I think, up in Tennessee. He may be somewhere else. Who knows? Richard Hyssong. Richard, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, man, I am doing fantastic. And actually today, this is not typical, but today I'm actually sitting in the state of Maine.
In the state of Maine?
You're never home.
Your home state.
What are you
My
doing?
home state. Yeah, I'm never home, but I am home and here for a couple of days, and it is in the high 60s, low 70s, and it is gorgeous.
Man, rub it in a little bit. Rub it in because, down here in Atlanta right now, it's probably 88 degrees, and that's without the concrete. That's just what the sun's coming down. So, Richard, you guys have done such a tremendous job with your stuff on radio and getting your music out there, and people have fell in love with you, and you've made the move and sang at the National Quartet Convention, and you're doing concerts all across the country. Arthur and I, we're Southern guys. I'm from Atlanta. Arthur's from Asheville, and we're born into this stuff. Tell us how a family from Maine gets wrapped around. I know you can get wrapped around gospel music, but how do you get wrapped around this thing called Southern gospel music when you're about as far from the South as you can be in the great state of Maine?
And still stay.
Yeah, we're pretty much all over. It's funny you say, Arthur, because a lot of people go, man, I didn't know you guys were from Canada. I'm like, I'm not. I'm from Maine. That's another story for another day. Yeah, I'm like, we're still in the 50, or whatever. So, hey, people ask us all the time. I'll say this: my dad was a pastor, and he pastored for about 25 years. His parents, my grandparents, for years lived outside of Easley, South Carolina. And my mom grew up as a missionary kid, but her parents lived outside of Chattanooga and Saudi Daisy and Hickson and all that. So my dad kind of grew up listening to Southern gospel music. A lot of our family, the roots, because of my dad being a pastor and because just different family members in the past had lived up in the state of Maine. Southern gospel really wasn't a big thing, obviously up in New England. But when my dad's family was from South Carolina, my grandfather tried taking him to as many concerts as he could. I know they had all-night things and Thanksgiving at the Greenville Memorial Auditorium, and my dad said he would often hear, the Spear Family, and just grew up with groups like that, the Florida Boys. Would listen on Sunday mornings to the Gospel Jubilee. But when he got older, became a pastor and pastored in Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and in Maine. Most of my life, I grew up in Maine, and really, my dad loved Southern gospel music, so we always played it, in the house, or if we could go to a local Christian bookstore and buy the new Southern gospel. But literally, our Southern gospel music up in Maine, it was either one concert a year by the cathedrals, or 2 hours a week on Saturday afternoons between 12 and 2, our local Christian radio station would play Paul High on the Gospel Greats.
Wow.
And that was it. And how we got started was up in New England, there was pockets, it's actually a lot bigger now than it was before, that liked gospel music or liked Southern gospel music. Actually, I don't know. Did you ever come up here, Arthur, with other groups?
No.
You never was up here, because there's a couple ladies that used to bring some gospel groups up here, and they feed them lobster, and that's how people would know the state. But when my dad was pastoring, there was a Bible conference, and they were having some local groups, and they typically sang more of a gospel style music. And one of the groups had to cancel. And so the Bible conference director said to my dad, he said, hey, you know what? I know, Del, you sing and your wife plays the piano. And at the time I was 13 years old. And they said, I know your son sings because we heard him sing in church one time. And could you put something together as a family? And so stupidly, my dad says, yeah, why not? Who wouldn't want to do that? So we went to a local Christian bookstore, got some Cathedral soundtracks and like Somebody Loves Me and that. Those kind of songs, and we sang 23 years ago in a Bible conference in the northern part of Maine. And when we got home, our answer machine was already blinking, and there was churches saying, hey, we heard you at the Bible conference, can you sing at our church? So that's how we kind of got started in this music ministry. We had no idea what God would do or how God would take this and lead it, but yeah, my Southern gospel knowledge at the time was pretty limited. But that's how we got started, and then we just took one step at a time and sang in New England for many years before anybody outside knew who we were. That's as boring as I could get, but that's That's how we started.
No, that's not boring because it's like it is down here, and Arthur can testify to this. I mean, you grow up in it, and there's a white church on every corner, and every church has their Grand Ole Opry star within that church, Sister Lucy or Brother Bill, who's the best singer in the church, and they sing in that church, and they go to revival after revival and sing, and next thing you know, they buy a van and it turns into a bus, and they're a gospel group. And, that's the way we find it down here in the South. So to hear you tell how it worked out in Maine is interesting. Wouldn't you say, Arthur?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But you are right. It's like, but up here, even though a lot of people have a lot of great talent and music, it's not. It's because the South is different, where they say, oh my goodness, if we continue to practice, if the Lord leads us to go down this path, let's get some bookings, let's get a recording, let's, like you said, buy a bus and break down every 5 minutes, but just keep going that trajectory. But up in New England, they don't have that same history. So we have some great talented folks, but in the back of their mind, even if the Lord is nudging them, sometimes they go, we just don't know if we can make it, or, because it's not the same. They don't have the same mentality. They don't have the same, hey, let's go and do this. Because we don't have that history. We don't say, I know we don't have watching someone like the Kingdom Heirs or the Kingsmen or whatever. We don't have that. So it is different mindsets.
And already, since you made that statement right there, Olin Witt and Mr. Hint Hill and the Lewis family down there in Augusta, Georgia, have decided all to put bus franchises up in Maine. So everybody that does sing in church can now get a bus. What do you think about that, Arthur?
Yeah.
You just bankrupted my whole state just with that one little comment.
People are people, okay? We know that. But what's different in singing in the North? Because I looked at your schedule before the interview today. I think the furthest south you are between now and late August is Virginia. But what's the difference between singing to a northeastern Maine, Vermont, upstate New York crowd and singing to East Tennessee and North Carolina and Alabama? What's different?
The biggest difference is that the folks up here don't get it as often. Sometimes they just look at you at first and go, what in the world are they doing? But on the other hand, they appreciate it much more, I think. And not saying that the South doesn't. They love and appreciate it, absolutely, and we love singing there.
I think we take it for granted. I think we take. Don't say we don't appreciate it. I think we take it for granted if you don't know the truth about it.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think so too. Yeah, you're right, Arthur. I mean, literally, you can hear a group any day of the week if you in different areas of the South, any Sunday night, Friday night, and they can go and get it. And up in New England, it's like they're so hungry for it. I know a lot of the styles have changed, and I know you're starting to get that a lot in the South too, but we've had different, not Southern gospel, more praise and worship in our churches for 20, 30 years. And so we're even seeing that Southern gospel concerts are even going back into the auditoriums because people are just so hungry for it. And they want to get the ticket and go see the concert. So if you look at my Facebook page, you'll see that we do a lot of different ticketed events up here. But yeah, they want to get it. They want to buy the CD. They're hungry for it. The crowds are growing in a lot of areas up here. And it's too bad because in some of the areas, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, you have such an incredible talent. And the folks up here, they would absolutely love it if they knew that they could see the Kingdom Heirs at Dollywood on Friday and then go see another group on Saturday. I mean, they would just think they died and went to heaven, Wow. But down there, it's almost like they don't appreciate. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of oversaturated in some ways in their minds.
No doubt. Now, are the crowds younger? Are they similar to what you see in the Southeast or the Midwest? I mean, is it the same age range? What do you see?
To be honest with you, they are probably a little bit younger crowd up here in some aspects, depending on obviously the day of the week. But I'll tell you this: the people that are buying product is definitely a middle-aged, younger age group of people. But we travel everywhere. So like I said, in August we'll be out in Branson, and we'll be back in Georgia and Marietta, and so we sing all over. But yeah, I think it's a little bit different, a little younger.
Yeah. Wow.
That's awesome.
So Richard, that's cool. Arthur, why do you think? I'm going to ask you this, Arthur, from a group perspective. Is it because the booking agents don't push them up there? Is it? But what do you think keeps a lot of the groups from going northeast, in your opinion, and going to places up there? I know we talked to Daniel Ball a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about the great crowds they've seen in Minnesota, North Dakota, and places like that. What do you think keeps groups? I know your group pretty much stays there at Dollywood all the time, but what keeps some of these other quartets and mixed groups from going to places like that, do you feel?
I think probably the unknown more than anything. And the lack of venues, I guess, or the request, I guess, from groups that, you go up there and you may be a popular group down here, but you go up there and you're not. But it's great to hear that people come out to support that. Anyways, they want to come and hear other groups. It's encouraging. I think it's almost the unknown.
Richard, gospel music.
I think it's a long ways for a lot of them too. The diesel fuel, it's a long ways. It costs a lot. A lot more to get them up here.
Yeah, it's like going out west, like going to California. And so you go out there and it's great, but you got to make a 2-week trip to make it worth your while.
And you have to sing every day.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Like we're doing one next May, and you're right. You start in Arizona, New Mexico, then you go to California, then you go up to California, then you come through the top of the country, and by the time you're done, you're spending a lot of fuel. But I'll tell you this, and you're going back why groups don't come up here, because a lot of people here don't really know their groups that well. We actually had Triumphant last summer, last June, and I'm telling you, most of the people, we had a great crowd. I think we had about, I'm trying to think how many people actually had come out, but it was a big crowd, great crowd. And it's funny because they really enjoyed the concert, but most people had not heard them. And when they started doing the white flag, I went into the auditorium to see the reaction. And I mean, maybe 2 people were waving their handkerchiefs, but by the end, people were trying to find anything they could to get involved. But really, we had just a handful of people that even knew, what in the world are you guys doing? And they loved it. Wow.
Stylistically, Richard, what are folks in the Northeast craving? I mean, because stylistically, Southern gospel is so different. I mean, it's so different depending. I mean, you've got great groups like the Primitive, that's one style. Great groups like Jeff and Sherry Easter, another style. Karen Peck, the McCameys, the King Damaris Triumphant that you just mentioned. What are the folks liking? What do they like in that area?
It depends on the pocket that you're in. We've had Jeff and Sherry, and they've gone over great. Had Triumphant, they've gone over great. Have had Gold City, they've gone over fantastic. Greater Vision's done well. You don't see a lot of the McCameys and Primitives. However, McCameys did come up here about 10 years ago, and people loved them. Honestly, I think they like a wide variety of styles.
Nice.
They like the music. Most importantly, they like the message, and they want to make sure that you're real and that you're genuine and that you love the Lord. And that's a big thing to the people that I sing to. Anyways, I can't speak for all of New England, but for the people that we sing to, that's because there's someone that's going to be listening to this going, this kid is crazy. What is he talking about? But it's that's what we've seen.
Now, do you see a broad section of denominational backgrounds up there? I mean, you come south, and every other church is Baptist Church of God or Methodist. But you go to the Northeast, you see a lot of Catholic congregations as you travel from city to city. Are you seeing a broader reach in those denominational pools while you're up there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Baptists. There's a lot of churches, some Church of God's, Assembly of God, Pentecostal churches. Definitely a lot. Yeah, right. Especially when you get more towards Massachusetts and some of the cities more of Catholicism. So, but yeah, I mean, when we do these concerts, people come from all different Methodists. They come from all different backgrounds to these concerts. Yeah.
Wow.
It's. I mean, also we were in Greenville, Maine, and across the street was a high school, and they booked us in a high school, and literally the church across the street was the Catholic church, and they said, we're not having mass today. We're going across the street and hearing this group called the Hyssongs. And so it's just yeah.
Well, it's honestly it's kind of like the Dollywood crowd, really, for us.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many people that are from different parts of the country that don't have Southern gospel music, or they're not accustomed to it. And when they come in and sit down, it is an experience. It's an experiment for them they want to see what it is, and then by the end of it, they're like, wow, this is really cool. Where's this been, and that's kind of what we get. And so I can understand. I get that.
Yeah, because they come from all over the world to Dollywood, and when they come to see you guys in the theater, they're hooked. They said, this is just incredible.
What would you say, Richard, to the group? There's a lot of great young groups out there that are trying to get their names out there, and they're saying, well, Darren, you're sitting here talking to Richard about the Northeast and Maine and Massachusetts and Connecticut and upstate New York and places like that I've never been. What would you say to those young groups that potentially want to travel up to that area of the country to sing? How would you, if you were in East Tennessee and had a great group and wanted to go in that direction, what advice would you give them?
I don't know. I'm probably the last person to ask because every step of the way. I mean, like I said, we never planned on really doing this. I mean, my dad. My dad was pastor. I was going to go into the College for Music Education, and literally the day I was accepted, our phone, I think we booked 10 dates the day I was accepted for music education. So I deferred out and did the Liberty University online thing. Half the time, even today, I'm 36 years old. So 23 years later, I'm still trying to figure out how in the world did we get to sing over here to do what I'm doing. So I guess just if you have contacts, see if they book you, and I guess it's like everything else. But I'm really one of the worst person to ask, because literally every step of the way, God has just led us. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's true. I mean, I blink and I turn around and I think, well, God, how did I get to here, or how did I get to there? And once a year, I sit across near Arthur on the SGMA board, going, Lord, how am I so blessed to be able to be with such incredible people? And someone from Maine who didn't grow up in Southern gospel music, and I'm sitting with some of the biggest legends in gospel music. So I'm really probably the worst person to ask about that. But yeah, just connections, I guess, and call people that you know.
Well, I think part of that is comes down to, that the thing of, if it's God's will and it's meant to be, there's nothing you can do to stop it. But if it's not, there's nothing you can do to make it happen either.
Exactly. Wow.
Richard, let's talk about the Hyssongs for a few minutes. What's the wow moment for you personally when you're looking around? You talk about wow, you're at the SGMA board. What's the wow moment in your lifetime when you looked around and said, man, I can't believe what the good Lord's allowing us to do? Where were you at? Where were you singing?
The wow moment. We've had so many different wow moments. A wow moment again, people in New England, and I know the South's different. They have Southern gospel groups all the time, and going to different events like Dollywood or NQC is just, we have a chance. We did that last year, but for the first time I stood on main stage of NQC, I went, a group from Maine, from New England, actually singing a song. It just doesn't happen. Right. I think really in the Northeast, of all the years and years of gospel music, I think the only ones were the Couriers from Pennsylvania. Yeah. I think you talked about radio before, and I think it was kind of embarrassing because it's not, at the end of the day, it's more important to see people's lives come to, accept Christ. It's more important to make a difference in people's lives. But when we first got our first plaque for a #1 song on radio, man, I just cried. I just thought, wow, God just opened these doors up. Again, being from New England, that just doesn't happen. But I'll tell you, the biggest, not a wow factor, but things that really put things back into perspective is we just sang at a church in Boston. It was a Chinese church. And after we sang that night, we packed up, we left. We had no idea what was going on in that church or, what impact we had. But yesterday we got a phone call from someone from that church and they just called and they said, we want to let you know that as a result of the concert that you had and the service you had last week, we were there on I think it was a Saturday night. They said on Sunday morning, one of the couples came to us and said, we want to accept the Lord Jesus Christ as our Savior because of what we heard last night. And that's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. But I've had too many wow moments of
no doubt.
But that's what we're all about, really, is the ministry aspect. But yeah, I think I have a wow factor all the time. I'm always going, pinch me. I can't believe I'm actually doing this. And when people hear me, they're probably going, I can't believe we're actually hearing this group. What are we doing?
Well, I think that you guys are great. The way you've interjected trombones and trumpets into your program is phenomenal. The way your family's working, the dates and the way that people are accepting it is awesome. This is going to be a catch-22 question because.
Oh man, here it is. I was waiting for this, Darien. I knew it was coming.
You knew it was coming, okay? and let me ask you this. Does the word Southern gospel impede the growth in places like Maine and California and Washington State and Idaho? Because I say yes. That's from a guy that lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and talks the way that I talk. I say yes, and I think folks love it from a cultural aspect to call it Southern gospel. And you know what? Clark Beasley and me's had this conversation, and then he says sometimes yes, too. But it's not politically correct to say it, Richard. What do you think?
I'll tell you this. I was asked that live from Ronnie Bauckham on Sirius XM one night, and I refused to answer the question. I just basically introduced my song, and then he asked me again. So I was like, "Thank you for asking that question. You know, my song is great." It just depends. I'm sure to some they assume they associate maybe Southern gospel and it being more country. Maybe, like I said, not really growing up in it and being where I am now, to me, it's an honor to be a part of the Southern gospel music. And so I don't mind it. I can call it, I'm very, it's an honor to be included, in Southern gospel music. It's an honor for me to be included in the things that we're included in. I bring Arthur this because he's on the phone, but even to be on the Sing at Sea cruise, Southern Gospel's biggest cruise and that kind of stuff. So I'm probably not the one to answer it. I'm sure to some, if for instance, like you said yourself, you think it impedes it. Maybe to some areas of the country, I think it's more of an association. They don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean Southern? Is it country? Is it bluegrass? What is it?
Is it bluegrass? Is it country and western? Because, I got cousins in upstate New York. They call country music country and western music. And I'm like, country and western? Yeah. What's country and western about it? I mean, they're in Schenectady, New York. You know the area. And they're calling it country and western. I'm like, what is that? So sometimes I wonder, and this is just me, if folks in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, are wondering Southern gospel, and they get these things in their mind if they're thinking, what is this? So, Arthur, what's your thought on that? I've never asked you that right off. And you're a guy from Asheville, North Carolina, so you're deeper in the Southern roots in the hills than I am. I might as well be from New York City anymore as to say I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I
was thinking that. You're more city than all of us there, Darien.
Yeah. But you know what? My voice is more Southern than all of you, so I can pass. Arthur, what do you think? You tell me.
I honestly, I'm kind of like Richard. I really don't know the answer to that either. Sometimes I think it does impede some. I don't push that a whole lot at Dollywood, but then in the same respect, I invite people to go to the Southern Gospel Music Hall of Fame and Museum, to find out, more about our music, where it came from, and that sort of thing. I'm kind of at loss too. I don't know. I think in some situations it does. I would think in Richard's situation in the North where we're not where it's not as strong and as available, that it probably wouldn't impede as much as probably in the South. Because that when you go up north and say, well, we're going to have a gospel concert, well, okay, well, what is that? When you say we're going to have a Southern gospel concert, then most of the time they associate that with groups from the South and from that that are into quartet music and
or they think of a banjo and a fiddle.
Exactly.
But how many groups have a banjo and a fiddle now, Arthur? That's my question. See what I'm saying?
Well, here's the thing: just about everybody, because most of the groups use tracks. There's very few groups out there that have a live band. Most of them are using tracks, so just about everybody has a banjo and a steel on something. At least one song.
Right.
So. I don't know. I think in some instances that it does hurt us, and I would almost say that it probably hurts us more in the South than it does up north.
I agree with that.
Another reason, and let me just go ahead and say this for the groups in the South. And Arthur, I've championed this for the past year. Richard, this is no reflection on your group at all, but there's some groups in the South that claim they sing Southern gospel, that quite frankly, they do sing Southern gospel, but they give Southern gospel a bad name because they don't prepare themselves, because they use excuses, and we'll leave it at that. And Arthur, we've had that conversation 5 or 6 times. Yeah. Richard, what's going to happen with the Hyssongs coming up? What are you guys looking forward to? What do you guys have planned? Tell us about the growth, what you think the future holds, and what's coming up with you guys personally.
Personally, our family, we're looking at 2020 and beyond. Our schedule, it's just remarkable. I hear some groups that they say that they have a hard time getting dates. We're booked deep into 2020. I'm booking 2021. Wow. We actually host several events, bus trips. We host different things like that. Just a lot of stuff coming up. I think in the future, a lot of people ask us, because, what is our plans? What are our goals? We constantly are always, asking God to continue to lead us. But it's really neat. My wife has now joined us a little bit here and there singing. And I'm praising God for that. She's doing a great job. In fact, most days she's better than I am. So I might be able to sit back and hang out with you all more.
She is. Let's go get that out of the way. She is.
She is better, and she's better looking. So I can just stay home and book her, and my daughter and my son, and just let them go out. And but no, just God has just opened up a lot of things for us, a lot of events. Like I said, we host our own events. And like I said, God just opened up so many doors for our family. And like Arthur said a while back, nothing that we could open, nothing we can shut by ourselves. It's just, we just feel very, very blessed and very, very honored.
Yeah. We've talked about this several times, Darren. So many times we look at things, and I think it's just the human side of it that we don't take into consideration the God factor of it. And that's the difference. And that's the difference that as the world looks on, they can't understand, why any of this music survives. I mean, really, it should have died years ago. But it just hangs on and continues to grow. I don't think it'll ever be huge. It's just the thing of, it's not popular. Jesus is not popular. And we just have to do, what we're called to do and do the best that we can and ask the Lord to bless it and multiply it. And that's it. It's that God factor that we, when you sit back and you go, man, how does this happen? Well, it doesn't happen because of what you do. It's that touch that you have.
Because you look back, even Arthur, you look back at your life and all that you've done. I mean, I know you work hard. You put a lot of effort into the craft that you've given, but you got to look back and say, well, God, how have I done this? How have I been at Dollywood for how many years? 30 some odd years now.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly. I mean, I look back and people say, have you done what? I may not have done everything that I could have done, but I've done a whole lot more than I ever dreamed that I would do, and been further than I've ever dreamed I could go, and I didn't really have anything to do with it. I was just God wants our availability more than our talent.
Oh yeah, I have to say this, and you can edit this out, but I have to say that there's people out there that have more talent in their thumb than I have my whole entire body, and they're sitting at home not singing a lick. So you just feel really blessed. You say, Lord, thank you for just blessing me, and just continue to use me any way that you possibly can use me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, Richard, I think the one great thing that you said earlier is your family was willing. Okay, that's the first step. You were willing. When that pastor said at that conference, "Hey, we don't have a group. Can you guys sing?" Your pop said, "Yep, we'll do it." You were willing. And at the end of the day, that's, I think, more than anything else, that's what the Lord wants from each of us, is just to be willing. And by being willing, doors will open. I guarantee you, if we went to some of these groups today and said, "Did you ever dream, Peg McCamey, Reuben Bean, that you guys would be retiring?" They would have said, "I'd have never dreamed I'd quit building houses." If you would have ever went to Glenn Payne and George Johnson and said, "Hey, did you ever envision that the cathedrals would sing the places we sang?" George would have said, "No way." And we could go on through time and say that. But Richard, congratulations to you and to your family on the Hyssongs, on the great things you've done over the last 23 years. It wasn't done. It's not a sprint. You guys just didn't start a couple of years ago. You put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in these 23 years, and you've made the great state of Maine happy. Here's a question I have for you. Now, all the southern states have our little music hall of fames. We got the Georgia Music Hall of Fame and the Tennessee Hall of Fame and the North Carolina Hall of Fame. Does Maine have a Hall of Fame for music at all? And if they do, what group comes from there in any genre that we may know? That's my next question.
Man, you're gonna get me in trouble. Man, I don't know. I didn't join the organization here in Maine. They asked years ago, and I probably should have. So I don't think I'll ever be elected into that. If you just asked that question. Wow. Next question. No. There's some really talented folks.
Who is popular from Maine other than the Hyssongs there, Richard?
Is there anybody else, Darien? Is there anybody else? Household name? No. We have some athletes, like two. Let's see. We have. Did you ever remember a comedian called Tim Sample? No? Okay, so he was a big... I know who's popular from the state of Maine.
Who's that?
Oh, I never watched the show. He was a doctor. He was a doctor on Grey's Anatomy. Patrick Dempsey.
There you go.
There we go. See, we have one. No, we have several. But I'll tell you this: we may not have the most popular people, but we have the greatest lobster and seafood.
That was my final question. That was my final question before I got you to tell everybody about your group. If we were to go in the grocery store like Arthur and I go into Kroger here, what would we pay for a lobster today, do you think, in Maine?
I don't know what you do if you go to the grocery store, but see, I live about a half a mile from the ocean. And so I would just go right to the boats and whatever it is today. So it wouldn't be very much. I don't know. I have so many friends that are lobster fishermen. I don't think I paid a full price lobster in years. So, but when I go down south, what's hilarious is when you go on a cruise ship, they'll always go, "Today is the Maine lobster." And I'm looking at it like it's a crawfish. What are you doing? Now, don't get me wrong, crawfish are fantastic. I love it, but lobster's a little bit bigger. And the other misconception is lobsters aren't red. When they're red, it means they're dead. They boiled them, or they put them in the. I don't know how we got that, but it's.
So that means you're telling me, and you're telling a son of the South, that the Red Lobster logo is a fallacy.
No. It's just they're basically just promoting dead lobsters is what they're doing.
Arthur, did you know lobsters wasn't red?
Well, I mean, you see them in the Red Lobster tank when you walk in.
Yeah.
They're
That's right.
to be alive.
I love it. Sometimes when I go at lobster, I'll hear some people going, especially if they don't know, that they're like, I'll hear them ask the waitress, like, is your lobster sick? I literally just had this happen a couple months ago, and the lady goes, what do you mean? They're like, well, they're not red. And I died. I just laughed as hard as I'm thinking, no, they just haven't foiled them yet. There's a lot of actors right now and actresses that are going against. They're trying to say that they're being inhumane to the lobster. And I'm thinking, well, how else are you going to kill them? But wow. This got pretty morbid pretty quick, this conversation.
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
but it's a whole lot better than asking me what Southern gospel. Take Southern out.
That's right. It is. And you know what? We'll get far more people entertained talking about lobster than we will this other stuff, because that's what people hear on SGMP is stuff to ask nowhere else. And that's what you got to remember, Rich.
A lot of people right there. We just educated them to know that
we just
in the red lobster, the lobsters aren't sick.
So many are going to go in there and go, y'all are a bunch of liars. These aren't real lobsters. Right. You painted them.
The manager in Morristown, Tennessee, is now hanging out signs right now. The lobsters are not sick. Okay,
are not sick. They're painting their red lobster right now. Well, they should be a sponsor of the show. We've talked about them so much, but they're probably repainting the whole logo into like brown, green, algae looking lobsters.
That's hilarious.
But Richard, one more thing you can learn. Oh, sorry.
What's that? Go ahead.
I was like, if you put the lobster, this is a true story, on their heads. Now everyone's going to go, oh, you're mean, and you rub the back of their backs, they will go to sleep and be almost hypnotized, and that is true.
Really?
Yeah. See, you know what we should.
Arthur,
yeah.
Arthur.
Like an alligator.
We're going to take him snipe hunting too. Okay, Arthur.
Yes, absolutely.
You ever been snipe hunting, Richard?
Snake hunting? What did you say?
No, snipe hunting. You ever been snipe hunting? Okay.
What?
We'll get you with Reagan Riddle and them boys, or the Cook brothers one, and we'll get them to take you snipe hunting, and then we'll believe that story about putting a lobster on your head. Okay? Is that fair?
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Is that fair? Anyway, we'll tell you about snipe hunting later. Hey, real quick, Richard, before we get off here, tell everybody about your group and where they can find your stuff online and how they can find you and all that kind of good stuff.
Well, after I told them about lobsters, if they're still interested, you can go find our information. Go to, obviously, any social media, Twitter, Facebook, and so on. Just look up the Hyssongs, HYSSONGS. You can go to our website at thehyssongs, HYSSONGS.com, and you can find out all about us right there. And that really is our last name. A lot of people always ask us if we made it up. We're just not that clever. It really is our last name. It's a Dutch name, so I had to throw that in there. But thank you so much for having me on your program. What?
One other question. No. We got off the lobster thing. One other question. What about Bigfoot? You have any Bigfoots in Maine?
We did, but he died of old age. He did. He was actually. Yeah.
We were sitting around one day between shows, and something about Bigfoot came up, and Jerry, our tenor singer, is a member of some Bigfoot club. Seriously. And we got to talking about Bigfoot all over the country. And so, wow. Well, here we go. Somebody in Maine was asking about Bigfoot.
Well, yeah, it was pretty embarrassing the way it died, but yeah, it's gone.
Wow. And you know what? I was planning on going to see Richard then when they sang for my buddy Robert York here in Marietta coming up. But anyway, didn't tell the lobster story about on the head, so I just don't know. No, I'm messing with you.
That's what everyone else is thinking too after this conversation.
But somebody out there is going to try it.
They will.
They will.
Well, I hope they have the rubber bands around the claws though before they try, because if not, they may be a finger less than they had before.
Well, just let me ask you one more question since we're talking fun. Have you ever ate mountain oysters there, Richard?
Mountain oysters.
Yeah.
I've had oysters, but what's a mountain oyster?
Ask Eli Fortner, okay?
You don't want to know.
Okay, I won't ask.
Yeah, you don't.
No,
Right.
but I'll say this though: clams and oysters and all that. If you don't do it right, I'll watch people eat it, and they'll eat the whole. Oh, let's do a part 2. We'll talk about that later.
Jesus has prepared for you a place, so run the race. We place our trust in Jesus, knowing He will take us home. Everyone rejoicing as we dance around the throne. While we're in His body, let's pass the faith along, letting others all around us know there is strength to carry on. When a mountain's in your way, climb with faith. When you're barely hanging on, fall on His grace. When the enemy surrounds you, lift your voice and storm the gates. Jesus has prepared for you a place, so run the race. When you're reaching out through the loneliness and strain, there's a cloud of witnesses proclaiming it's not in vain. When a mountain's in your way, climb with faith. When you're barely hanging on, fall on His grace. When the enemy surrounds you, lift your voice and storm the gates. Jesus has prepared for you a place, so run the race. Run the race. Run the race.
Arthur, Richard was a great guest, was he not?
Oh, absolutely. Fun.
I think the part about oysters and snipe hunting and mountain oysters and lobster was the best part of the show, if you'll know truth about
I
it.
think so. Yeah. We'll grab some fans from there.
Well, you know what we'll do? We'll make sure we hashtag that in the show, so that when people Google mountain oysters, they'll hear about SGNP, and we'll build our brand that way. I'm teasing. You know what? Here's what I took. Here's what I took more than anything else. You got to be willing to go.
Absolutely.
No matter if you're in Maine, no matter if you're in Vermont, no matter if you're in Nevada, Wyoming, wherever, you got to be willing. And I promise you, when these guys started singing, Arthur, they never dreamed they'd be down in Tennessee singing at the National Quartet Convention like he talked about, or on the board of the SGMA. They never dreamed that. They just were willing, and that's how the Lord's blessed them, and that's how the Lord continues to bless them.
Absolutely.
And you know, I know we've talked about the Northeast, and I'm sure there's some groups and some people out there listening today said, man, we're good. We're better than them. We could go to upstate New York and say, well, you know what? Put one front in front of the other and sing. And I promise you, they ain't $200,000 missionaries. I promise you, they went to little bitty churches and got a love offering of $50 or nothing at all sometimes. Don't you, Arthur?
Oh, absolutely. But they stuck it out. And, you know, it doesn't happen without hard work. I mean, they work hard at what they do. And you know, the Lord blesses that. And they are great ambassadors for our music and for the Lord. And that's what I love about them. 23 plus years. That's not a sprint. That's a marathon. Mm-hmm. You know? That's right. And it didn't happen overnight. Yeah, exactly. It didn't happen
That's
overnight.
right.
Yeah.
But I learned one other thing today that I never knew.
What's that?
Lobsters are not red.
No, I never thought about it either. That's pretty
Did
interesting.
you not know that?
I didn't know that.
Now, and then are you? So here's the deal: National Quartet Convention one night this year. We're going to have a snipe hunt, and we're all going to take Richard on a snipe hunt. Would that be fun?
Oh, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. That's perfect.
Arthur, one question before we get out of here.
Yeah, man.
What's wrong with living right anyway?
Not one thing.
Thank you for listening to SGNP. If you're listening on radio, please note you can listen to our podcast 24/7 on your own schedule. Just download wherever you get your podcast from, or visit us online at southerngospelnewspodcast.com. To hear it on your smart speaker, just ask Alexa or Google to play Southern Gospel News Podcast. And after listening, please leave a remark in the remarks section and subscribe, and you'll receive our program free every Friday. And remember to check out Southern Gospel News Podcast social media for daily fun and giveaways. We're the audible voice of gospel music. We look to uplift you every week. SGNP, where it's all about the gospel.
I told you at the beginning of the show that when the show was over, I was going to tell you a little bit more about our new partner, Blinkist. Blinkist is the only app that gives you the best need-to-know information from thousands of nonfiction books and condenses them down in just 15 minutes so you can read or listen. So basically, guys, it's the Cliff Notes that you used in high school. There's so many great books out there. If you're like me, you watch a TV show, they put this book out and you say, man, I'd love to read it, but you don't have time. Blinkist condenses that book down, and you can use Blinkist to help you. 8 million people are using Blinkist right now, and it has a massive and growing library from self-help books, business books, health books, religious books to history books. I like Blinkist because it gives me information fast. I use Blinkist when I'm driving my truck down the road, and I can hear it through my app on my phone. And I recommend you check Blinkist out. Right now, for a limited time, Blinkist has a special offer just for our Southern Gospel News Podcast listeners. Go to Blinkist.com/Southern Gospel News Podcast to start your 7-day free trial. That's right, free of charge, no money. Go to Blinkist, BLINKIST/Southern Gospel News Podcast.com and start your 7-day trial. It's that simple. And hey, tell your friends about it, tell your neighbors about it, because a lot of you like to read. I read Bill Gaither's biography by Ken Abrams through Blinkist. Then it had me go back and get the whole book and read the whole thing. It's a great little thing. Blinkist, thanks for sponsoring SGNP, and thanks for using Blinkist.